What is up guys, CharleyPangus here. Welcome to another t-shirt design tutorial on this channel. This is the first one of 2020 and I am so excited, and I'm sure a lot of you are. In 2018 and 2019 I did a series of t-shirt design tutorials, but I kind of just stopped after like 5 or 6 episodes. But my goal for 2020 is to keep this going for as long as we possibly can. So the only thing that might change is the titles of these videos, but just know they're gonna be in episodes, okay? So every t-shirt design tutorial I do from now on is going to be in an episode. So this is episode 1, the next one's going to be episode 2, and so forth. Anyway, before we get into today's tutorial, I do wanna give a huge shout out to my friends over at CharleyPangus. Without them, this video would not be possible. They have been a huge supporter of this channel since day one. Something I would call magical happened with me and CharleyPangus. We developed this really good friendship, and they gave me a plethora of knowledge in the wholesale industry that I wouldn't have had before without them. If you guys would like to pick up some CharleyPangus blanks, you can now do so without a wholesale license because they introduced a retail section on their website where you could just buy their styles now, which is awesome. But if you do want to sign up for a wholesale account, you can also do so. Again, that is all linked in the description below. With all that being said, let's go ahead and start designing now. I'm gonna meet you guys in Illustrator and we're gonna make some cool stuff together. Here's the design that we're gonna be making today. And I really like this one. It's got this really like Western feel to it. And I even added some texture and color. I'll show you guys exactly how I did that in a minute. But it's a really simple design. It may look a little complicated, but when you break it down into steps, it's quite simple. So we're gonna do that today. I'm gonna break everything down into steps and make it really easy for you guys to understand. Anyway, I did something really cool for you guys. I actually created a blog on my website, CharleyPangus.com. I will link that in the description below. And on that blog, I'm gonna list all of my tutorials that I've made in 2020, and you guys are gonna be able to find all the design resources on each episode. So I have these designs right here, but I made another artboard. And this is just a 10-inch by 10-inch document. Since we're working with vector, we can resize later, so I'm not too concerned about size right now. I have the color palette and the font right here as well. The font is called Moret Extra Bold, and you can find this on the type kit within Illustrator or Photoshop. So if you guys don't know what that is, just look up a quick tutorial on it. It's really simple to use. The first thing we want to do is drag out an ellipse. Because this design is within a circle. So we want to hit L on our keyboard and we just want to drag out an ellipse holding in Shift, or you could do Shift and Option, and that's going to keep it centered. But I like to just hold in Shift because I can always recenter it later. So now I have a circle. I'm gonna go ahead and go to my selection tool, hitting V on my keyboard. So again, hit V on your keyboard to go back to your selection tool. Once it's centered using these alignments on the top, we can go ahead and switch the foreground color to the stroke color. And we can make the stroke thicker just by changing the points on the top left here. So I'm just gonna quickly do that. We're gonna find something that we like. I think, let's go ahead and try 12. I think 12's fine. We can make it a little smaller now so it has a little bit more breathing room. So now we have that stroke. That's all we really need to do. So I have the outside circle. Now I need an inside circle. I can copy this a few different ways. I can either drag and hold an Option and let go. That's a duplicate copy. Or I can do Command C. I think it's a Control C on a PC, or I could just go to Edit and Copy, and then Edit, Paste in Place. You could do it any way you want. It may not look like I created a copy if I pasted in place, but I did. It's literally creating the same copy and pasting it in the same place. Simple as that. And I'm going to hold in Shift and Option on my keyboard, and I'm just going to resize it now. What I want to do is make the outside circle slightly larger. So I just want to hold in Shift and Option again and resize it just a little bit. And now we need to cut the circle in half. This is the tricky part, but this is the easiest way to do it. Let me show you. I'm gonna go ahead and select both circles and group them together, and then we want to cut them, okay? But before I do that, I need to actually use a ruler. And the reason why I'm using a ruler is so I know exactly where to cut so they're all even. Does that make sense? Because if I'm using the scissor tool to cut certain points and they're uneven, it's gonna make my design look really off. So instead of going through all that, I'm just using a ruler so I know where to cut. That's literally all I'm doing. So now I wanna go to my scissor tool, which is C on your keyboard, and I just wanna cut right on that line. So we can zoom in really close and cut right on that line. So you guys can probably see what I'm doing now. This makes it way more simple to cut. So now it is cut and it's grouped together. That's okay, we just have to ungroup it. All I'm doing is right clicking and ungrouping it, and then I'm gonna group the bottom half together. So now if I move it away, you could see that it is together now. And we could go to our pen tool and just combine these points together just like this. We'll do both of them. Now I can take this and move it up a little bit and make sure that is in the front, which it is. Pretty good, but we're gonna go ahead and resize it just a little bit, make it a little smaller just like that. And we can move it down just a tad bit. just like that. So I think this looks pretty accurate. It might be a little different than the original, but I'm okay with it. Now what I need to do is make the back part of the banner, and I'm just going to use the pen tool for that. So watch how I do this. I'm gonna make 1 point right here and 1 point right there, and I'm just going to move it with my arrow keys on my keyboard, just like that. So it looks like it actually belongs there. So I just wanna select that line that I created with the pen tool. I wanna go to my reflect tool. You can also hit O on your keyboard, and we're just gonna find a center point, wait for it to snap. So this says it is centered. And now what I'm doing is using these smart guides to find a center point for one, and then I'm going to hold an option and click once. It's gonna bring up this reflect dialog box. We wanna reflect this vertically. We can preview that real quick. That looks good to me. So now let's see what it looks like. Much, much better. Sometimes you will need to make micro adjustments. It's just the nature of designing. I know that first part was a lot to take in. Trust me, it's a lot for me to try to explain. I know that was a lot to take in. That's only the first part, right? So you're probably a little overwhelmed by now. Just understand, guys, it takes practice. Please, please, please understand that, okay? You're not going to get this overnight. Just imagine how hard it is to try to explain this if you're having a hard time learning it. You see what I'm trying to say? It takes time. So don't worry, don't stress it, guys. You are gonna be fine. You will get it down. I promise you, if I can do it, you can do it. To create those sharp lines that you see right there, we're just going to use the pen tool, really, really simple. And we wanna make sure it is a solid fill, not a stroke, because that will mess it up. And we just wanna create these triangles real fast. And they don't have to be anything special. The reason why it looks like this is because it has a white stroke. So I'm just gonna go to my strokes and turn it off, make it transparent. And from here, we can just adjust the triangle to make it look a little better. And from here, I'm gonna use the binding box, or the transform box, I like to call it, to resize it. So we're just going to squish it almost. And then we have something that looks like this, and then we can just duplicate it a few times. So let's see how many we have on that final design. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You wanna space them out enough to where they barely touch, and then you just wanna keep doing that until you have 7. Now I have 7 of them, and I just wanna drag them in place real quick to see how wide they are. That actually looks perfect. So we can also make them a little bit longer, that's fine. And then what I wanna do is create a duplicate copy. So I'm just gonna select them and hold an option and just let go once I drag it over. Now we need to add an arc to this. So we can do that in effects up here. So we just click on effects, go down to warp, and then hit arc. This will take some time to get used to. It's always hit and miss for me. Sometimes I get the arc right, sometimes I don't. So just keep playing with it until you get it right. And we do want to transform this and reflect it. So I'm gonna go to transform, reflect, and we do wanna reflect this vertically. So I just did that, pretty simple. And then we're just gonna drag that into place and kind of look at it and make sure it looks right. I actually don't think the arc looks terrible. It could be better, but for the sake of this video and time, I actually think this is fine. Now what I wanna do is take my selection tool here, just hitting V on my keyboard. I'm gonna take my selection tool and I'm going to reflect it using, you guessed it, the reflection tool. And then I wanna find a center point, hold an option, and click once. And then what that's going to do is pop up my reflect menu. I'm just gonna copy this over vertically. You wanna make sure you hit copy so it actually creates a copy instead of just reflecting it, because that's not what we want, right? We want 2 copies. So again, hit copy, you're good to go. So the next thing I wanna do is probably grab my revolvers so I can put them in place. So I'm just gonna select them. We're just gonna copy those over. So I'm pasting that and I'm going to resize them now. To create the smoke, I just used a pen tool. I can quickly do that. It doesn't take much time at all. We're just gonna go to our pen tool. We wanna make sure it's on stroke, and you just kind of make some smoke, you know? There's really nothing to it. So I think all I did was something like this. Under uniform, I used the first one called width profile 1, and it made it look like smoke, so I actually really liked the way it looked, and I went with it. I can make it 8 points thick. I'm going to expand the appearance, and then rotate it. And then I just dragged that in place and made a duplicate copy and made one a little bit shorter. And then we can duplicate it now by reflecting it again. See, I'm doing a lot of reflecting. Copy that over. What I wanna do now is actually duplicate the smoke once and make it white and send that to the back. And then I wanna reflect that over as well. And that's going to make it look like this, which looks way better. So now you can actually see the smoke in more detail. The only other thing we need to do is add some stars, which you could do by going to the shapes here, go to the star tool. We're gonna add 2 stars, one that's a little bit bigger, and we need it just black, and we're gonna create another one and make this much smaller. What I'm doing now is going back to the Revolver AI file that I gave you guys on my website, and I'm going to delete the white real quick, and then I'm gonna re-paste it because I don't want that white in there, and I'll show you guys why. It will make more sense in a second, because we're gonna add color to this, so we wanna make sure that white's not in there, because we're gonna create that color inside of the revolvers in a second. And again, it's gonna make way more sense in a second. All I did was resized it, so now I have just the revolvers. I'm gonna copy them, so I'm gonna do Command C, Shift Command V, and I'm going to merge these together and unite them. And that's going to create a solid fill. And then from here, we can change the color to anything we want. And I wanna delete this inside part. I don't need that, where the trigger is. We're just gonna delete that. So we have way more control over the color now. And let's go ahead and start typing out some text. So what I wanna do to create the text is I wanna just create one shape here. I wanna create an ellipse, and we're gonna use that ellipse to create a text path, okay? So I'm just dragging out an ellipse, and I wanna copy the same circle as the one I have in the center. And we don't need a stroke, but we can keep it on for now. And then I wanna use my type on a path tool to just type around it. So we're gonna type out, what did I have? Smith and Coles. I don't know why I came up with that name, but whatever. And then I wanna use my Morat font, so I'm gonna change that real quick. And we wanna make that bigger. We wanna fill up that space a little bit more. We could change the position of our text just by holding an option and using the arrow keys, and we can change the spacing of each letter, and I can change the baseline shift just a little bit more. I'm at 10 right now, let's go 12. That looks much better. Quick shortcut, instead of doing the type on a path again, all you have to do is do Command C, Shift Command V. Now that I pasted that, all I have to do is use these little anchor points and rotate it to the right side. You do have to mess with it a little bit until it gets in the right spot, because it will kind of do something like this. See how it's weird? It's freaking out. That's totally normal, it just does that. And then we're gonna rotate this one to the left, because this is actually the front one. See, just like that. So we're gonna do Smith and Cole, just like that. Let me see what it looks like. Smith and Coles. I wanted there to be the same amount of characters on each side so it's even. So if I were to put a roller down right now, I can really see where each of them should sit. So now I know that the right text can be up a little bit more, just like that. So now they're definitely aligned. The only other thing I need to do now is add the bottom text and we're done. So let's go and do that real quick. So again, I'm creating a circle. I'm going to my type on a path tool, and I'm just going to start typing. So I'm just rotating these little anchor points until they're both centered on left and right sides. And once they're centered, I know that they're good. Now I can go to character and change that baseline shift. And again, if anything looks off, you can just put the cursor in between each character and use option and the left and right arrow keys to nudge it over. What I wanna do is figure out what color I want everything. So I think I'm gonna leave the outside just black. Before I move on, I wanna outline all of my text just so it's a flat vector basically. So I'm doing Shift Command O. I just selected the entire design, did Shift Command O, and now I'm left with this, and then I'm just going to make it this orange color. So I have my color palette up there, ready to go. The reason why I'm dragging all of these colors in my swatches is because it's gonna make it much easier to color everything later on. So anyway, now I have it all in my swatches. That's exactly what I wanted. Now I'm gonna select the guns and make it this tan color. So now I have that brown. We're gonna go to that tan color now and see what I mean by that. It's gonna make it so much easier when it's in the swatches. And we're gonna select our banner as well and make it that red color. See how easy that is? And to make the background the solid yellow color, I'm just gonna drag a circle out real quick and just send that to the back, really simple. And I wanna have the stroke off, and we're gonna make it that yellow color. And again, just send it to the back, done. Simple, simple, simple. That's the basics of coloring. I'm not gonna go any further than that. That's just the basics. That's how I do it. You could go further if you want to. There's a lot of things that we could do different, but that's how I color, okay? The next thing I wanna do is show you guys how I would take a texture into Illustrator and actually apply it to my design. What I like to do is go to the site called Lost and Taken for all my textures. They just have some really cool textures on here, and you don't have to worry about any copyright issues. So I'm going to this site called Lost and Taken, and I'm just gonna quickly find a texture that I like. It doesn't even have to be anything specific. And then I'm just gonna paste it into Illustrator. And then I wanna go up to Image Trace, and then we can mess with the details by clicking on that little menu next to Image Trace and really adjust how you want it to look. I'm actually gonna lower the threshold because I don't want it to be that intense. Right now it's just too dark. I think this looks much better. We're gonna go to Ignore White, and then expand that. Now we're left with just the black because we ignored the white, and I just wanna click on the color here on the top. It's on black, we wanna put it on white, so we change that color to white, and we can literally just drag that over the top of our design. It's really simple. What I do is I go to my direct selection tool and I just delete half of it off, and then keep rotating it until I find a nice position for it. So now we have this really cool design that we made in Illustrator from scratch, minus the revolvers that I linked for you guys on my blog. All you have to do is go to my website, CharleyPangus.com, and you guys can download those revolvers. I will link that in the description below. That's it for this tutorial, guys. If you wanna watch my last video, you can do that by clicking right here somewhere on the screen. I definitely recommend it. And also, you wanna make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss another video, and hit the thumbs up button as well. It helps my videos out. But guys, I am so stoked to start the series up in 2020. I hope you are too. I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to keep creating and keep being awesome. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.